Huh. Welcome everyone. Welcome. So those who wants to join, who wants to chase the certificate, they can fill the above mentioned Google form so that you all can do that. Okay, doesn't matter. We will share our screen within a few minutes and we will start our session. Okay, and whenever there is a matter of story, we always used to think that we we always used to think as a thought that there is a need, there is a need to feel well, right? And now we would like to wait for some time. So, hello everyone. We will start our session within few minutes. Let's wait for others also so that others can join. And I hope that everything will be clear. So, very good evening to you. Okay, so let's start. Just I am going to share the screen with all of you so that you all can access. Hope that it's visible, everyone. Hmm. It's visible to all of you. Okay, so today's title we all already know that. What's today's topic? That today's topic is about the integrating storytelling in English lessons. We all are going together there to discuss that how we would be able to integrate the method of storytelling in our lessons, because it's really important for us that integration. Whenever we people used to talk about the term integration in Hindi, we used to say that what samaklan. We used to integrate, we used to add on the things, and later integration, somewhere the term which always relates with the term the collaboration. Mostly, MBA students used to collaborate to each other and to form new things, right? So, what is the objective of today's session? We will discuss as I understand the importance of storytelling in English language lessons. Why is it important? Explore a story, types of different age group. What is the story we will discuss first? Then we will discuss the types and what is the consequences of the sessions. Okay. We will also discuss that learn basic storytelling techniques, because technique plays a key role, as a, we may say that the major role, because role, whenever I talk about the role always used to continue as a till the ending of the NEP 2020, according to the process of NEP 2020, according to the consequences of NEP, FLN pedagogy, everything always they used to integrate these stories in their lesson planning, in their training objective, in their learning objective, in their teaching, everything. You will find that there is a process as a method which everyone used to integrate what is storytelling. Okay. Link is storytelling to NEP and then FLN goals, as I earlier discussed, as I told to everyone. Use digital and inclusive tools in the class. Because inclusive, whenever I used to talk about the term inclusive, what is exactly the inclusive is? Okay, what is exactly the inclusive is ना? Actually में inclusive term आपका क्या convey करता है कि in Hindi we used to say that समावेशी शिक्षा, right? Because समावेशी शिक्षा always used to inculcate the feeling of the oneness. Okay, until and unless the child is know everything or not, until and unless they child is able to do everything work or not, because inclusive, whenever we used to talk about the term inclusive, every child is not has the same level, everyone has different level. Suppose that there is a one student, this he know that how to take care, let's say how to do everyone, but whenever I'm going to talk about the another one, he don't know that how to do that work. Whenever I'm going to talk about the third one, he know that simple. He know the little bit about that particular work. He don't know the exact process, that how to do that, how to convey all the process. But whenever I'm going to talk about the second one, he know that. Okay, so like this. Now, and digital. Whenever I am going to talk about the term digital, today is now, whenever I am going to talk about the term digital, everyone as a our modern era always conveying the process of digitalness. Everyone wants to digital right now because our policy of modern era always inculcate the feeling of oneness, as I earlier told told to you all that. Okay, now come on the next. Why storytelling in English lessons? Why is it important? Okay, because I think according to me, storytelling always important because due to some reasons. Because dear teachers, reason is simple. That a story. Whenever we used to talk about a story, we always used to say that we used to learn so many things by dint of a story rather than only reading out of what theory, right? We used to feel too much ease that you know that that what um, makes learning joyful and engaging. Okay, means हम लोग कहते हैं ना makes हमारी learning joyful and engaging, means बच्चे क्या होते हैं स्टोरी के थ्रू आई थिंक ज्यादा लर्न करते हैं rather than वो आपके थ्योरी के थ्रू लर्न करें या इवन फॉर्मूलाज के थ्रू. हम लोग जब उन्हें स्टोरी वी यूज्ड टू टेल द स्टोरी, वी यूज्ड टू शेयर द स्टोरीज विद देम, देन आई थिंक they used to grasp very easily, right? Now come on the next, that builds vocabulary and imagination. Whenever we used to talk about the story, we used to convey some of the things in our mind that you know we used to imagine, like whenever used to uh, we can still take the example in the night time. Okay, whenever we used to go on the bed and to get sleep, then we used to see the dreams, so many dreams in the night time we used to see, and we used to discuss in the morning time. We used to discuss with the our family members that yesterday night, and as we missed them last night, I saw this, I experienced this. So what is this? It is that whenever we used to imagine, because imagination is very vast process. It's not like that we used to we may say that it's not like that it's very simple. No, it's somewhere word imagination एक खुद में बहुत बड़ा वर्ड है. मैं अगर आप सबको बताऊं, ठीक है, लोग कहते हैं ना एक हमारा एक लॉ चला, लॉ ऑफ अट्रैक्शन. व्हाट इज द लॉ ऑफ अट्रैक्शन? वी यूज्ड टू इमेजिन पॉजिटिव थिंग्स इन दैट, एंड वी यूज्ड टू गेट इट डन थ्रू व्हाट इमेजिनेशन. इमेजिनेशन का आपकी लाइफ में बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है. हम लोग बहुत सारे सपने देखते हैं, ठीक है, तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं, हम लोग इमेजिन करते हैं. वी यूज्ड टू इमेजिन मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट हाउ टू डू दैट, एज आई हैव डन दैट. Even I have selected in that particular exam. What is that? It's called imagination. And whenever our imagination comes true, we used to say that what? It's the law of attraction here. No, whenever I used to talk about that, what is exactly the law of attraction? So it always conveys the process of imagination. Whatever we used to imagine, and then after in the future reference, we used to get it done. So it's called the imagination. Okay, now come on the next one, that improves listening and speaking skills. Okay, you know, again, I would like to say that a story. Whenever we used to talk about the term story, it always improves our listening. I would like to remember my point again, that improves listening and speaking skills. How it improves? Because I have written it, but there is a need that I have a need to prove that what we will how we will improve the listening and the speaking skills, because it's also needed that we have a need to improve our listening as well as speaking skills also. And how we will improve? Because हम लोग बोलते हैं कि एक अच्छा बोलने वाला एक अच्छा लिसनर होता है. गुड स्पीकर, before become a good speaker, always speaker need to be a good listener also. एक अच्छा बोलने वाला एक अच्छा सुनने वाला भी होता है. उसके अंदर ऐसी क्षमता होती है, सुनने वाले कुछ कह नहीं सकते. और जब आप सुनते हो तभी तो बोलते हो ना. Even let us take the example of nursery class. Children don't know that how to use the sentences, and what and where to use all the sentences. What are the exact use of all the sentences? But whenever we used to teach them, we used to provide that way, that where to use aggressive sentences, where to use kind related sentence, where to use polite sentences. Then they used to implement. And what is the implementation level of Bloom's की theory का क्या level था कि हाँ third level, that is your what applying level, we may say that this in the synonym terms that implementation level, right? because improves listening, and whenever we get improve our listening skills, then definitely our speaking skills can also get improved very easily, I think. It's the pedagogue, the teachers, it's somewhere magic storytelling, it's somewhere like that a magic. Okay, now come on the next one, encourages emotional connection to the language. you know Let us take the example once again. Children most of the times, as in not only children, even all of us also, we used to learn many things by doing the hands-on activities. We used to experience the things, then we used to get it done. How? Firstly, we used to make the emotional connection with our language, with our tones, with our pitch, with our voice. Okay? Then what we used to do? We used to do that, encourages emotional connection. How we used to encourage, how we create a connection of our emotions to the language, because we used to imagine, as I earlier told you all, that our second point is that imagination builds vocabulary and imagination. We used to imagine, then we develop a feeling of oneness, that is what emotional connection as an emotional confidence. Then sweet connection has been created, right? आपका connection create हो जाता है. Come on the next one, linked with NEP 2020 as a NCF 2023. Dear teachers, whenever we used to talk about the term NEP, it's really very sweet term. Very sweet term. Very interesting topic. If ever you all will request, then definitely I will provide the overview of what NEP. Whenever I should talk about the term National Education Policy 2020, it always emphasizes as the influence the approach of what? Holistic. And whenever I'm going to talk about the holistic approach, it's always conveys the hands-on experience. And whenever the hands-on experience always happen, then definitely a children would be able to what? Promotes experiential and joyful learning. Children as a teacher would be able to what? Supports foundational literacy and numeracy, which is known as the FLN. Encourages use of local and cultural stories. Focus on holistic language development. Fifth one is your what? Builds inclusive and engaging classrooms. And whenever I'm going to talk about the builds inclusive and engaging classrooms, so it always inculcate the feeling of oneness. Because as I earlier told you all, that it always inculcate the feeling of oneness. Okay. That that I am also promotes experiential and joyful learning. Whenever I'm going to say, experiential learning, what? Experiential learning always is that hands-on experience. Learning by doing also somewhere refers to the experiential learning. Because, whatever we used to do, we used to experience, then we used to promote the collaboration. And it's also a quality of what NEP 2020, that we used to collaborate, we used to send the everything, and then our children is ready. Supports FLN, Foundational Literacy and Numeracy. What is exactly the FLN is? FLN, dear teachers, always it's as a goal that, till grade third, as a till grade three, the children would be able to what? What? Children would be able to solve the basic arithmetic calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And also children should be able to read and write. It's the main as a major goal for what? FLN. Because dear teachers, it's really important whenever we used to talk about the term NEP 2020. It has four spectrum and structure. What first is your foundation stage, second is your preparatory, third one is your middle, fourth one is your secondary. And whenever I am going to talk about the foundation stage, so it must be unique. We may say that every child is unique. फाउंडेशन स्टेज में क्या होता है डियर टीचर्स, बच्चे को हमें इस चीज के लिए ट्रेन करना होता है कि वो फाउंडेशन से रिलेटेड सारी चीजों को सीखे. कहीं ना कहीं हिंदी अगर मैं बोलूं, कहीं ना कहीं नींव होता है. एक घर हम लोग बनाते हैं, वी यूज्ड टू प्रिपेयर अ होम, एंड हम लोगों को एक क्या कहते हैं ना, बेस. बेस की नीड होती है. हम लोग क्या करते हैं, बेस की नीड होती है, राइट. एनकरेजेस यूज ऑफ लोकल एंड कल्चरल स्टोरीज. एनईपी ने भी एक यही स्टेटमेंट दिया था कि encourages use of local and cultural stories. Whenever we used to talk about the local stories, so how we used to say, because local stories as the cultural stories. Suppose that we are teaching the history subject, and we used to provide them the imagination image of any culture program, any culture exam. We used to provide the simple imagination image. Okay, just wait, dear teachers, just wait. Okay. Okay. So we used to inculcate, right? And whenever I'm going to talk about the focus on holistic development, so as I earlier told you that, it always focus on holistic development. Anyone would like to tell the exact meaning of holistic? I would like to know that. Holistic, linked with NEP 2020, and whenever it focuses on language development. Anyone can tell about the term holistic? Anyone can tell about the term holistic? Anyone can tell the term holistic? Okay. Now come on the next. Builds inclusive and engaging classrooms. Whenever we used to talk about the inclusive classroom, then as I already told you all that every child is unique, because inclusive classrooms, in our class different pace level. Okay. Maybe one is something like that. He is too much intelligent in their studies. Maybe second one is that he is not intelligent in his studies. So what is that? It is that, dear teachers, he or she is unique. Maybe someone is expert in the coding. Maybe someone is expert in what public is speaking. So it doesn't matter that the child is weak. No, we can't say that it's weak. We can't say that he or she is weak, but we can say that in that particular sector he or she is weak, but we can't say that he or she is totally weak. No, we can't. Okay, I know that he or she is weak maybe in his studies, but I can't say that he is totally weak. No, maybe he or she is expert in coding, maybe he or she is expert in drawing arts, right? So we need to appreciate the efforts of children. Come on the next one. What is the next one? Types of stories. What folk tales, as if you know, fables, moral stories, personal stories, picture stories. Okay, so let's look on the different types of stories that we can bring into English classroom. The first type is folk tales. These are rooted in culture and tradition. They connect students with history, beliefs, and values that have been passed down through generations. Next, we have fables. Whenever we used to talk about fables, short stories that usually with a moral. These are great for teaching students lessons about life in a simple and memorable way. Most of the times we used to, as a parents, we used to scold to our children as a student that, that sometimes a student used to misbehave. Then we used to relate our memories, our childhood memories, we used to relate with them. That when I was in like your age, I don't used to do, and I didn't get the chance to do activities like you, right? Activities in such a way like misbehaving. Most of the teenagers, they are following such kind of activities that they used to misbehave, but we used to relate with them, and we used to somewhere create a comparison with them, that what they used to do in their childhood days and what nowadays we are doing. Okay, somewhere like that. Whenever we used to talk about the moral stories, they are always powerful because they build values along with language skills. Students don't use learn words, they also used to learn how to live. Dear teachers, please listen carefully that these are powerful because they build values, as I already told you all that. Along with language skills, students don't just learn words, they also learn how to live. Okay, come on the next one. Another engaging type of stories is that personal stories. These are stories shared either by the teacher or the students themselves. Make the classroom atmosphere more personal, relatable, and interactive. Okay. Sometimes we used to share while teaching the personal stories, because whenever I can take the example of subject English, as today we are talking about the one types of stories in English classroom. So there is a NCRT book of class 12. Okay, and there is a story that my mother at 66. It's really too much engaging story, in which the author Pablo Neruda, she is the author of that particular sorry, not an author. She is the poet of the particular story, and we used to read. And while reading out, we used to think about what personal memories with our mother. We used to think about what personal memories. So what is that? Somewhere it's called the personal stories. That is not a story. I know that that's poem, that is rhyme, that is poetry, that is a part of poetry. But we used to somewhere inculcate, we used to somewhere, what I earlier told you all that in the previous lines and the previous slides, that there is a word which also exists in education, what? Collaboration. We used to collaborate. And same here we need to apply. That we can still collaborate, with the topics also. We can still collaborate, between the personal stories and whatever imagination process, whatever all about, we can easily collaborate. Okay, and finally we have the picture stories. Okay, these can be visual, wordless, or told with very few words. These are excellent and engaging as encouraging creativity, imagination, discussion, especially for young leaders as a learners. So by mixing these types of stories, we can make English learning not only effective, also enjoyable and meaningful. Because dear teachers, we don't have a learning objective as a goal, like, what, we only need to deliver the content in front of a student. No, we have also goal to follow the process of an EP, follow the rules of an EP 2020, as well as we have also need to, you know, as a don't have need to do formality. No, because we are building the children. We are the one who are building the children, who are building the persona of the children, who are building the knowledge base of the children, who are building the IQ level of the children. Who is building? Who? We. We are building the children. No one. But we are the builders. We are the builders. And what? Children are the future engineers, doctors, and everything. Right? So it's something like that. Okay. Whenever we used to talk about the finishing the story, you all can take the screenshot of this page and you all can try this activity. Okay. By performing this activity, I know that definitely you will got to learn so many things. That reading aloud. मैं तेज तेज बोल रहा हूँ, क्या ये स्टोरी है? मैं जो अभी आपको सुना रहा हूँ, it's a story. No, it's not a story. It's somewhere we may consider in the category of reading aloud. And whenever I'm going to tell about the storytelling, means telling. And whenever we used to remember that what is telling, what is the meaning of what tell, we used to tell to someone, we used to inform someone, any kind of criteria, any kind of discussion, any kind of topic, any kind of agenda, how we used to inculcate the feelings. We used to collaborate with the feelings, right? So it's the major criteria, dear teachers. Okay, so let's start with the storytelling. When we tell a story, we maintain eye contact with our audience. The voice and expressions are naturally more powerful, and expression, the engagement level is much higher because students feel connected. As I earlier told you, that whenever we used to tell to anyone else, we used to get connected up with our audience. But whenever we are going to talk about reading aloud, sometimes the teacher who is not acting as effective teacher in the classroom, then most of the students, what they used to respond, they used to say that he or she is continuously only reading aloud. Most of the students used to say, they used to respond in such a way. But whenever we used to talk about the term storytelling, we used to tell something else. We are telling someone, we are informing to someone. So, we have a feeling at that particular time, I think. You know, um, the voice and expressions are naturally more powerful and expressive. We used to express something by dint of non-verbal communication. Somewhere postures, our gestures matters that time. And naturally, the engagement level is much higher because students feel connected. Storytelling also gives, us flexibility. We can change, add, or improvise depending on the situations. And most importantly, there is strong student improvement. A student can participate, respond, and even influence how their story unfolds. And now let's talk about the term, look at the term reading aloud. In this case, eye contact is usually limited because the focus remains on the book or text. Voice and expression are often fixed, making it less dynamic. Students become passive listeners also somewhere, because there are kinds of listeners exist, active and passive listeners. And whenever I used to talk about the term active listeners, they always, not only sometimes, they always used to provide the real feedback. They used to follow the process of paraphrasing. What is paraphrasing? You know, suppose that I am speaking wrong. So, as an audience, you all can, correct my things. That, sir, I think here in case of O, I need to use you. Something you can suggest me. Somewhere the process of suggesting in English language we used to refer that paraphrasing. Okay. And whenever I used to talk about passive listener, they don't used to respond. They didn't used to provide the feedback to the speaker. They don't used to. Okay. Because as I earlier told you, all that focus remains on the book or text. Voice and expressions are often needed, making it less dynamic. Students, because passive listeners, because the activity is bound strictly to the text, it lacks flexibility and involvement is limited mainly to listening without much interaction. So to conclude, both methods have their place, but storytelling creates a richer and more interactive classroom experience comparatively to reading aloud. Okay, so that's why I was saying, that's why I was saying implementing elements of a good story. Whenever I used to talk elements of the good story, so good story always, as I earlier told you all that what is the exact elements of a good story. So characters. First of all, we used to discuss about what characters. Okay, we always used to discuss about the characters. Okay. Whenever I used to talk about characters, who is the story all about? आपकी story किसके ऊपर है? Then setting. When and where what happens. Where and when it happens. Then we used to identify the problem. That is what is the main challenges of the story. Okay. Because, every time as always, we need to talk about the term that what is the story all about. Then we used to find the problem. That what is exactly the problem is it. Okay. Then after identifying the problem, everyone used to start to find the solutions. What is the exactly the solution of that problem? Okay. Then after that, we used to find out the particular message of that particular story. That what is story all about, and what we have learned from this story. And sometimes we used to discuss, and that time, while listening this story, we used to lost in the world of imagination. Always we used to lost. Okay, we used to lost always. Come on, the next storytelling skills for the teachers. Voice modulation, change pace and volume keeps the story dynamic and holds attention. How it happens, it always happens in such a way that we used to, somewhere we used to moderate our voice. Sometimes we used to get loud our voice, and sometimes we used to do what, slow. Sometimes we used to follow the slow motion process. We don't used to speak loudly, we used to speak silently, right? Facial expression, suppose that sometimes we used to demonstrate a funny story. Then what we will used to do, that time we need to express our facial expression. Suppose that the story is all about the funny characters, and I used to try and cry. I used to try and cry. No, it's not like that, you know and whenever I used to talk about the body language and gestures, like I am using like this. I am talk about the term apple. What I am do, I am creating the gestures through my hands. My body language also matters. Okay, eye contact. Suppose that my camera is here and I am seeing there. Suppose that like that. What is that? Suppose that my camera is there and I am watching as a seeing here. Now again, what is that? It's all about the eye contact. Look at your listeners while telling the story, builds connection, because it always builds connection and keeps the student engaged. Whenever I'm going to talk about pacing and pausing, whenever I'm to talk about the word pause, pausing, it's too much mandatory, because we used to take the pauses also. है ना? For example, sometimes we used to provide surprising moments of the story. Then I think we need to take the pause, so that let your student feel about that particular surprising moment also. I'm giving you example that. Come on, the next one. What is that? The next one is that, now let's understand. Okay. Now let's understand how to plan a story-based lesson. Step by step, I would like to tell you in the 5 steps. The first step is to select a suitable story. Always choose a good theme of a story that matches the age, level, and theme of your lesson. The right story sets the foundation for effective learning. Next, set clear objective, because according to the theory of Bloom's, your objective must be clear whatever you are going to do. Here we decide our focus, whether we want to highlight vocabulary, grammar, values, and comprehension skills. Having clarity helps us to guide the lesson better. The third step is a pre-story activity, because jumping into the story, we prepare our student with warm-up activity, a short discussion, a brainstorming connected to the theme. This makes them curious and ready to listen. Then comes the most exciting part, storytelling time. Here, the teacher narrates or tells the story in an engaging way, using expression, gestures, voice variation, modulation to bring it alive. So, finally, we move into the post story activity. This is where students reflect and respond, maybe through questions, role play, drawing, or even writing tasks. These activities deepen their understanding and make the story memorable. So when we follow these 5 steps, storytelling becomes a structured, impactful learning experience rather than just an entertaining moment. Pre-story activities can be something like that. Picture prompt. As I earlier told you that now, what was the fifth part of the type of story? Picture story. Sometimes we used to somewhere I think we can also take the example of slide. Somewhere it's also a kind of picture prompt we can take. We used to provide the one picture, then let student used to participate in that particular activity. Okay, now second one is that prediction questions. And whenever we used to talk about the prediction question, we used to predict that what will happen in the future reference of the story, and what, suppose that the Meena is a girl, then what she will do in that, on the next day what she will do. Vocabulary warm up, we used to somewhere warm up the vocabularies, quick discussions, and then we used to follow many process. Okay, during the story, keeping students involved, because we have a need to keeping our students involved. Ask predictive questions midway. We can still ask so many kinds of questions, like while conducting any kind of workshop session, most of the resource person, they used to arise so many kinds of questions. Somewhere warm up question they used to arise. Pause, we can still pause is a very important step while demonstrating any story, while demonstrating any kind of workshop. Pause is a very important step. What do you think what will happen next? As I earlier in the previous slide, I gave an example about the Meena. What Meena will do in the next session, what Meena will do on the next day, what she will perform, right? Use repetition with key phrases. Let students repeat fun or impactful lines with you. Run, run as fast as you can, like this. Whenever I can take the example of our workshop session. What is that? We can I was saying continuously the word. What is that word? The word was that I was saying we used to inculcate the feeling of oneness. I have repeated in the n number of times in my today's session. I have repeated so many times, and include actions or sounds. Still, I can take the example of me also. That I am also sounding at this time, and I'm also performing the actions. Somewhere we can take the example. Assign simple gestures or sound effects student can do when they hear certain words. Okay. Come on the next, character voices and emotions. Use different voices to distinguish the characters and just ask, how do you think he feels now? Name the characters together. If the story allows, involve students in naming animals, places, or objects. Come on the next one, post story, because post story activity much making learning stick. Okay, comprehension questions. Ask simple WH question. WH questions refers to what, when, why, something like that. If ever you will ask, then your children as a students will be more engaged. They will get engaged easily. They can get engaged. So somewhere it's a matter. Okay, what happened first? Something like that you can ask. So your children will get engaged. Okay, let students retell the story in their own words or sequence the events. That is known as what, story retelling. Okay, because it's also important. It's too much important. Whenever I used to talk about retell the story, because what students have understood, it somewhere matters. that what students have understood. It matters. Okay. And those who are asking on my WhatsApp number for the certificate, so please refer to the AIF official WhatsApp group. You all can get the link in the WhatsApp group. ओके आपको जो लिंक मिला होगा ना उसी के नीचे आपको सर्टिफिकेट के लिए आपको ग्रुप का लिंक आपको अटेंडेंस का और आपको सर्टिफिकेट का ग्रुप उसका लिंक मिला होगा गूगल फॉर्म का लिंक आप लोग उसको फिल आउट करके आप लोग उसमें कर सकते हो ओके assign characters and let students act okay suppose that that is known as what role play whenever we used to want to learn a lesson then we used to divide the number of students that you are Meena and you are Geeta and you have a need to play a story you can create your own story something like that you can create as a conductor activity so that your children will get more engaged in that okay नाउ ग्रुप के लिंक के लिए देखिए मेरे पास में बहुत सारे आ रहे हैं मेरे फोन पे मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूँ आप सभी लोग जो है क्या करो आप लोग ग्रुप के लिंक आप लोग जो सर्टिफिकेट के लिंक के लिए पूछ रहे हैं आप लोग ग्रुप में जाइए एआईएफ के ऑफिशियल ग्रुप में जाइए और आपको वहां पे सबसे नीचे आपको मिल जाएगा सर्टिफिकेट का लिंक आपका 2 आवर ऑफर सीपीडी में आपका सर्टिफिकेट काउंट होगा ओके हाँ नाउ कम ऑन द नेक्स्ट वन विच इज दैट आपका हाँ creative twist activity. Let student change the ending and add a new character to the story because creativity matters. We always used to say that creativity matters of a particular student. Creativity always matters because whenever we are going to talk about the NEP 2020 approach, so you know it doesn't allows to a teacher or a student that whatever the teacher is teaching he or she used to implement that no if ever a student has an innovative approach then he or she can apply his own skills also because NEP don't say that as it doesn't express that as a the draft is not something like that the student all the students has a need to follow the same process we used to follow no if ever we can still take the example suppose that we are having that we are providing whatever the content and what about them what they will learn what they will experience and whenever they will not get experience then I think learning by doing will not happen and whenever the learning by doing not happen somewhere experiential learning not happen they will not get any kind of experience that's why I'm saying now sample story I would like to demonstrate okay so what is sample story the lion and the mouse story title and a short simple fable suitable for grade 2 or 5 objective of this story is that vocabulary lion mouse trap help like this used value kindness and empathy pre-story activity we can conduct show the picture of a lion and mouse and ask can small people help big ones we can ask something like because I we used to sometimes conduct a what icebreaker activity we used to conduct okay now come on the next what storytelling narrate using voice variation as a modulation and hand gestures and hand gestures in comes in what category in which category hand gestures comes it always comes in the category of what आपकी कैटेगरी में कौन सी कैटेगरी में आते हैं आपकी नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन आपका नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन में आते हैं और हाँ मैंने आपका सर्टिफिकेट का लिंक मैंने आपका डिस्क्रिप्शन में भी मेंशन कर दिया आप लाइव का डिस्क्रिप्शन खोलिए आपको मिल जाएगा सर्टिफिकेट का लिंक ओके 2 आवर्स ऑफ सीपीडी में काउंट होगा ओके let students say please don't eat me with you during story check-ins pause and ask what do you think the line will do now I was telling about the word predictions let student predict about that particular story about that particular situation post story activities quick quiz you can conduct draw the mouse saving the lion let them change the ending what if the lion didn't listen okay now come on the next what is next connecting storytelling into English language skills. Okay, listening skills. Whenever I'm going to talk about the listening skills, so I already told you all that it's too much important because whenever we used to think that we need to speak more, then I think before speaking more, we need to listen more. Okay, and whenever we would be able to listen more, then we can speak more very easily. And before listening and speaking, we used to follow the process of reading and after reading when we can still follow the process of writing and while writing we used to the one element of the story, as a one skill of the storytelling, which is that vocabulary and grammar skill. It's too much needed. It's too much needed. You know. Come on, the next is voice modulation techniques. How we can modulate our voice? Okay. How can we modulate our voice? I am asking that. Okay. High pitch for excitement or children, low pitch for serious parts. Okay. Volume. Soft voice for mystery, loud voice for shock or action, we can say. Pace, slow down during suspense, speed up during action. Pauses, use strategic pauses for effect. Example, before I reveal, we can take a pause. As I earlier talking about what? Earlier talking about what? I was talking about the pause. Elements of a story in the slide of elements of a story, I discussed about the pause. I have also given the example of what? Surprising moment. Now come on the next. Use facial expressions and body language. Facial expressions, smile to show happiness. And whenever I'm going to consider the case of body language, learn forward to build suspense. Raise eyebrows for surprise in the terms of facial expression, and use hand gestures to show actions. Example, knocking, flying, running. In the context of body language, we can influence. And frown or squint to show confusion or sadness in terms of facial expression, and turn your shoulders slightly to switch between characters. It always comes under the body language. And eyes wide open for shock or curiosity in terms of facial expression, and use posture to show age or attitude of a character in terms of body language. Okay, come on the next. What is the next? Your next one is that um, you know why we use props and visual acts. When we talk about a storytelling in the classrooms, one powerful element is the known as the props and visual acts. But why are they so important? First, they boost imagination and attention. Okay, they always boost the feature of imagination and attention by the audience. A simple object or picture can make a story feel alive and keep students hooked. Okay, second, they support visual learners. Not all students learn best by listening alone. Some need to see things, truly understand. They want to uh, use to get clear the vision of that particular spectra. Third, probes help to make abstract ideas more concrete. For example, if we are teaching about the friendship, showing a picture or even using two toys can help children visualize the idea better. And finally, they enhance memory and recall. Students remember stories longer when they are strong visual or a probe attached to it. Now, when it comes to a type of probe, they can be both offline and online. Offline probes include things like real objects, puppets, flashcards, or pictures. Mostly, FLN teacher used to do it something like that. And online probes, on the other hand, could be digital images, videos, animation, interactive slides. So using probes and visuals not only makes the storytelling more engaging, but also turns into a multi-sensory learning experience. Right? How to adopt stories? Okay. And the English curriculum, because we also need to adopt these stories in our English curriculum also, right? We have a need to always integrate the stories, as I earlier told you all, that grammar focus, vocabulary integration, cross subject links, and storytelling as assessment, moral values stories, something like this we can integrate, we can adopt, we can integrate our stories, right? Okay, now come on the next. Storytelling in online mode, use visual ads. As I somewhere, you can still consider my PPT. Somewhere we can say that it's a feature of visual ads. Okay, and those who are asking for certificate, please डिस्क्रिप्शन में आपको लिंक दिया गया है, आप लोग सर्टिफिकेट को यूज कर सकते हैं, आप उसे जनरेट कर सकते हैं सर्टिफिकेट. ठीक है, keep it short and simple, tell stories, engaging stories, you know and involve students actively. Okay, just wait, dear teachers, just wait. Okay. Huh. So what I was saying, huh. Tools you can use: Google Jamboard, Wheel of Names to choose characters or endings. Flip by Microsoft, it's also an important tool to let it record their own storytelling. Okay. Slides, audio, somewhere, I was saying na, online mode, somewhere. Make it multi-sensory. Use background music. We can use fun voice modulation. We can use something like this. Power of voice modulation. What is exactly the what modulation? Whenever I'm going to talk about, um, change pitch, tone, and pace to match the mood of the story. Okay. Just wait. Just wait. Hmm. Let me share once again. Huh. Okay. What is exactly the voice modulation is? Okay. So whenever I'm going to talk about the term voice modulation, okay, voice modulation, something like that we used to say as a refer that change the pitch, tone, and pace to the match the mood of the story. Lower of your voice for suspense, raise it for excitement. Pause before revealing something important, dramatic effect. Use whisper, shouts, and varied emphasis to keep students engaged. Let your face speak first. When words done, the power of your body is storytelling. Okay, let your face speak first. Hands as visual highlighters. Movement with meaning, the power of posture. Exactly, it's all about. Okay, now come on the next. From head to toe, speaking stories without saying a word. Eyes that narrate, look around as if following the character's journey. Widen them for surprise, narrow them for suspicion, and soften them for tenderness. Eyebrows as explanation marks. Raise them for shock, furrow, and for worry, and arc for one for playful mystery. Shoulders tell the mood. Feel that, somewhere it's feel that the scene. Come on the next. Acting it out, turning narration into a performance. Yeah, we need to, suggest of a student whatever they have learned, they can perform. And whenever they will perform, what they will gain the hands-on experience, right? Come on the next. Your body is the stage. Gesture that captivate. Exactly. Big for big moments, small for small. Anchor the scene with your stance. Faces, expressions are the emotion map. Tell with your hands. Something like that we can. Okay. Now, silent it loud. Storytelling through movement. Let movement speak the line. Freeze for impact. Flow with the story rhythm. Okay, use the whole space. Power pose is striking stances with this in the story. Title, we can select a title, then select a key idea. Then after that, points to conclude. Okay, then we use to example for the story. Okay, from shadow to spotlight, moving with purpose, key idea points to include an example. Same process we need to follow. Breathe as beat, little inhale and exhale guide pace. Inhale for the power, exhale for release. Sync word with breathe. Breathe as an emotional cue. We can something like that we can take. Mirror the mood, matching body energy. Okay. To a story energy. When a story is joyful, your body should smile with it. Uh, when it's tense, your posture should tighten. The energy in your body must equal the energy in the story, so the audience feels in the same rhythm and emotion you intend to convey. The mirroring builds an invisible connection between you and your listeners. Identify the emotional tone of each part of a story before telling it. Match your posture movement. Shift energy smoothly. Okay, we need to shift. Practice in front of the mirror. We can do like that. Common mistakes to avoid: reading flatly instead of telling, choosing overtly complex stories, telling without involving learners, okay, not preparing in advance, ignoring language goals, something like this we can. Key takeaway: storytelling builds listening, speaking vocabulary. It makes English lessons joyful and meaningful. Use voice prompts, questions, and visuals to enhance the stories. Okay. Align stories with learning goals and student context. Start small and stay consistent. And thank you so much, everyone. The certificate link is given in the description box. You all can do that. Okay. And you all can, through that, you all can do everything. Thank you so much, everyone. You all can leave the session now. Okay. Thank you so much. Those who are requiring for the certificate, I am always suggesting to you all that please सर्टिफिकेट के टाइम पे आप लोग क्या कहते हैं यहाँ पे, सर्टिफिकेट के टाइम पे आप लोग जो भी है आप लोग वहाँ पे जो है कर सकते हैं उससे, वहाँ पे नो इशू। थैंक यू सो मच।